Richard Choop here, BingeGamer.net. I'm sitting with Mike Worth and Lou Trenchitella, VGI Philly, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, see what's up. So, guys, what's going on with VGI? You start.
All right, I'll start. Hey, thanks so much for interviewing us, first of all. Basically, VGI Philly, in addition to promoting great cheesesteaks, because that's very important to all of us, it's an organization that several professional game developers started in the greater Philadelphia area. Really, simply put, our mission is to promote, support, and grow the professional video game industry in Philly. Basically, a bunch of us got together, and we were at the GDC, and we realized that there's absolutely no game industry in Philly, but all these great guys from Philly we're meeting them who are working over at EA and Sony, and basically we said, this is really kind of silly. Why are we not having an industry? We realized that nobody had gotten together and started to make that push. So several professional game artists and audio guys, and then guys who run smaller studios, got together and said, let us bring the industry to Philly. So we're working with the government, we're working with the local universities, and we're talking to studios that are in various locations that might want to set up a satellite, and basically just getting the word out and creating great, favorable financial and tax incentives for these studios to come to Philly. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that's it. So I'm a PA resident. So
yeah, so you're already on board with this.
Yeah. So can you explain some of the incentives then to having a video game industry based in Pennsylvania specifically?
Oh, you got to kick that one off, Lou. That's you thought long and hard about that one.
Well, basically, video game professionals, they make a decent amount of money, and there's a good taxable income that they make. So for the state, in terms of tax revenues, there's a lot of tax revenues. It's an industry that is not transient. It's thought of as an entertainment industry, but it's not really. A studio will come in and they'll stay, they'll grow, and they'll grow. So the full-time employees are something that the state looks at in terms of tax revenue. From a cultural standpoint, you're bringing more culture into an area. Philadelphia is a cultural city. It's got a lot of culture, a lot of great schools. There's educational systems that are putting out game design students, game development studios, programmers. And like Mike said, they all leave. When you start to add them all up, you're talking about 30 to 40, 50, 100 graduates per year who earn anywhere from $70,000 to $85,000, and that taxable income is leaving. So there's benefits for the state to want to keep them.
Totally, and just to follow up with that point, our two biggest game design programs are University of Pennsylvania, which has the only Ivy League graduate program in game design and game programming, and the other is Drexel. Like Lou said, it's like 50 or 60 people out of those two. Top people that are hired by those graduates: Sony, Microsoft, EA, and I think Disney Interactive. So basically, our guys are coming up at the AAA level, and they're just going because there's no industry here. So it's really in the state's best interest to keep these guys here, and especially as the cost of living in San Fran and LA and New York keeps on climbing. Like, you could totally live here for 30%, 40% cheaper. You can set up a business for 30%.
And even on the East Coast, sorry to jump in.
Go for it.
Boston, New York, these are other game areas. The cost of living here is so much cheaper. All along the East Coast, there are game companies except in Philadelphia.
Dude, preach on
we are
I lift my balls too.
There you go. If you look at a map, Philadelphia is like a black hole. Like there are some studios here, but it's a very small community. But all up and down the East Coast, it's growing.
Totally. And check this out. The East Coast is the new hotspot. People are thinking, oh, you gotta be in LA, you gotta be in Seattle, you gotta be in San Fran. Yes, big areas. Last 3 games that won Game of the Year were from Boston, Bioshock, Baltimore, Fallout 3, and Research Triangle Park, which was Gears of War 2. So East Coast is totally legit as a massive game area. And like Lou said, Boston, New York, Baltimore, Research Triangle, and Georgia, Atlanta, because CCP, Actually, Nathan Richardson's here today for GameX from CCP out of Atlanta, So it's the logic right there. It's like, dude, there's no reason to fill in the blank.
The other thing is for interaction with game companies in Europe, you wouldn't want to be in the West Coast and interact with European game companies. If you're on the East Coast, you're shaving 3 hours off.
I also think it appeals to a lot of the art students in the area. There are a lot of art schools in the Northeast.
Yes.
I mean, like New York City being right there, Philadelphia is pretty big on art schools. So I'd imagine it appeals to these students as well, right?
Absolutely.
You need concept artists, texture artists. You do need traditional artists specialists in game development, game design.
And that's for marketing and everything like that too.
Market, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing we always talk about is it's not just a very select group of jobs that a game company needs. It runs the whole gamut, from legal, marketing, producing, obviously all the game stuff, engineering, art. But there's a total gamut of professions that are needed in the industry.
So would you think about like maybe doing internships or programs like that for the colleges, get them involved in the whole thing?
I like the way you think.
Absolutely.
As a matter, you got to call back.
Well, actually, schools like Drexel, they actually require a co-op, and I forget, is it
6 months instead of 3 months.
6 months,
Huge.
2 times or 3 times?
3 times.
3 times.
They do
So
a
they
6 month cycle.
Yeah, they require a co-op, and what we would like to do, obviously, is get Drexel involved. But with companies here, if we can start getting interns from Drexel and paying some of the art schools to go work with companies that are here, it benefits both sides. It gives the students professional experience. In Drexel, it's required, but if we get the other schools to do it as well, they're getting professional experience. If they get a game title in their credit before they graduate, it's a huge thing. If you're looking for a job in the game industry and don't have a game credit, you don't get hired.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I imagine it's a lot harder to build a resume in the game industry because games take a lot more time to make than other careers like just a regular art career. You can build a portfolio with each individual piece. Or as a writer, my portfolio is expansive simply because it's so easy to just go freelance for stuff. But with games, you have to devote your time.
Right, and so you're absolutely right. And actually, there's also a really unique crossroads we're at because there's this new emerging mid-price point game that we're talking. Okay, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, it was a $60 game or like something free on your mobile phone. Well, now you got the XBLA, WiiWare, $20, $25. Maybe
Flash
it's
games,
Flash
Flash
games.
sites.
Yep. I mean, obviously the iPhone, which is getting saturated. But the point is, now there's a point where a school can create a program. And actually, one of the successes, one of the people that's been coming to Philadelphia to set up a studio has already partnered with Frank Lee at Drexel, who's the head of the game design, and he's our academic advisory board guy. He's totally on board with doing this, and he's taking groups of students and they're doing a small Flash game or an iPhone game at a professional level, like each year. So you can do that. You can get 3 guys, 3 or 4 different people, and Frank's in heaven because his students are going to ship something at the end of a year. This gentleman is going to be coming in to do studios in heaven because he's like, hey, I'll be building my credits for my new studio, and that's the kind of flow. And that's the thing that VGI Philly, we were really, not to toot our own horn, we're really good about it. We realized you gotta have all these different sectors that are supporting each other. You gotta have the education working with the government. You gotta have that working with venture capitalists who are gonna be really supposed to help bootstrap these companies. Media.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we have great relationships. Philadelphia is a huge local consumer-based gaming hub. Gamervision, Geekadelphia, and Joystick are all outside of Philadelphia, like when we're in or we're around. And and technically Philly, which is actually kind of our go-to. That's our first media outlet that I usually do. Sorry, Sean, you got to us first. So I mean, I think it's one of the successes we've had so far is because when everybody sees how each sector can benefit, they get so excited. We've met with City Hall, and we met with representatives from the state legislature for Pennsylvania, and all of them are completely on board. They're reaching out right now to studios, they're reaching out to venture capitalists. So
The biggest thing for them is they didn't realize how big the game industry actually is and how profitable it can be. Not only from their standpoint, but from the workforce, the number of full-time employees there. Once we started to educate them on how much a game company is sort of like a software company, the little light went off and like, oh, this is what you guys are.
yeah, oh, we like software companies.
Exactly.
Because they make lots of money and they sit and they spend it and go to restaurants and we're like,
Yeah, they stay here and then they spend that money in the local economy, and then you give back to the local economy.
You can tell we thought about this a lot.
Yeah.